Tuesday, and we're just hours away from being 100 days into the GGR. Kind of hard to believe, really. It's been a long journey, and first boat's halfway through. Jean-Luc came in on Saturday, as we all know, and he's having a pretty good run across to New Zealand. In about 6 or 7 hours, I'll do a live tracker update and weather for the next few days as well, just to go through everything. But generally in the Southern Ocean now, all the entrants are having a pretty good time in terms of no big storms. Weather itself is pretty frustrating. The Indian Ocean's plenty of challenges, either not enough wind or no wind or too much from the wrong direction. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. The main one now is everyone's happy except maybe for Igor, still got some issues, not sailing as fast as he could. The rest of the fleet's fine, they're all reporting okay. I mean, Istvan had some problems, more little things going wrong, but nothing major, and so they're all looking pretty fit. ETA for Mark Slats, I reckon in about 9 days, but we'll keep you updated on that. And it looks like I did a run this morning on Susie. I think she'll be in definitely before the end of the month, maybe about the 25th or 26th of the month. And whether Istvan and Tapio can get in by the end of the month, we'll have to wait and see. I hope they do. We're committed to go back. Christophe, Jane and I, we have to go back to France at the end of the month. We've already got things organised, but there will be another team here to welcome the tail enders of the fleet when they come through and do all the live Facebook and things like that. So don't despair. It'll just be someone else on the camera. Okay, so we had some good chats yesterday on the phone too. Hopefully you've seen the SoundClouds. Jean-Luc was very happy to call in here. Some people are commenting on the race saying, why are we bringing him in? It breaks their routine, all those sorts of things. And we understand that comment. But again, it is replicating what they did in 1968 to get their messages across. And as frustrating as it was for Jean-Luc to get up, he understands fully the benefit of it. He had a bit of a break, which is exactly what they did in 1968. He was able to get messages to family and friends, and we are very positive about the whole idea of this particular gate. It's the only one for the whole race like this, and certainly the fans enjoyed it, we enjoyed it, the sailor so far has enjoyed it, so it's a feature that will be there for all future events as well. So questions, in fact I get questions all over the place. I get questions just in normal comments to various posts on Facebook. I try and answer them online at the time, I try and give a comment, but if you want to make, and I get questions on messages on the Facebook page, I get questions by emails and so on. Really, this is the best forum for questions. Just put them in the comments of the questions box. When you see the question box come up on Facebook, just put the questions under there, because otherwise I might lose them. I try to make a list and capture them all, and we'll respond to them brutally honestly and give you my opinions when it's required or when you ask for it at the same time. Mike Smith's asked a question. In fact, this is interesting. Mike is building a replica of Sue Haley here in Australia on the central New South Wales coast, and he'll be an entrant in the 2022 race. And he's got a real interest because Jean-Luc turns up and the bottom of his boat is perfectly clean. Even I was thinking, wow, look at that. That's amazing. He's got very good anti-fouling on board the boat, and I don't know what brand it is. He tells me it's just normal commercially available anti-fouling. I don't know whether he's sponsored or whatever. At the start of the race he had the boat in a skirt, and he had some biodegradable stuff in the water to keep it very clean while it was alongside the marina. But it's definitely working. I mean, he had one goose barnacle up on the bow just above the anti-fouling, and he had more on the quarters on both sides of the boat. Probably a dozen on each side, little ones about this big. He couldn't get to them to pull them off. He couldn't reach down, but nothing at all on the anti-fouling. So it's definitely good, and I don't know what it is. And we've had, while we're on anti-fouling, we've had some people suggesting, the ecological aspects of the anti-fouling that we have on the GGR boats, and maybe we should ban anti-fouling or something like that. That'll never happen. We'll let entrants choose whatever commercially available anti-fouling there is. Mike Phillips mentioned that in that recent video clip that DHL did, really good, reviewing the race and Susie's position in the race. If you haven't seen it, it's on Facebook, about 8 posts down or something. She had 2 life rings on the boat, and yet Jean-Luc turns up here and he's got none. The reality is they have all the normal fully crewed safety gear on their boat, so they have to have a life sling, man overboard recovery system. They also have to have a life buoy with light and drogue, a heaving line, all those things. Once we know they're on board and they pass their safety, it's up to them when they put those items in the cockpit. And I was surprised to see about a month ago, I think it was it Istvan? Someone lost one overboard. They washed it over the side in a big wave. And I thought, well, crikey, it's 2 months after the start. They've still got it in the cockpit. They can take them off and put them below. It's the safest place to have them. They're really there for if they come alongside another boat and they have to evacuate someone, or they're assisting other people. They've got all the normal regulation safety gear. Obviously when you're on your boat by yourself, you don't need your own lifebuoy, because if you fall over, it's a big problem. So it's up to them. They do have them all on board, and it's up to them when they decide they want to deploy them or put them in the cockpit. So Jean-Luc definitely has the life-sling and the lifebuoy. Casey Coleman was wondering about the toxicity, if anyone had tipped off Susie about the toxicity of the water, the rainwater she's getting. There's a problem with the dye in the sails that's possibly washing out into the water. So, but to the best of my knowledge, no one's got to Susie on that issue at the moment. So she's not really collecting a lot of water. She's got a option to capture water with a tarpaulin type a tarpaulin type arrangement in the cockpit, and she'd be using that. Margaret Keys asked about Igor and Mark. Are they buddy boating? Now, buddy boating means when you find someone and you stick together, in case someone has a problem, you've got someone else close by to give you a hand. I don't think they are. They're further away than VHF radio range, okay, so they wouldn't be in VHF range. I think it's just a coincidence that they're in that same position. So I remember in the BOC when I was there, there was myself and 2 other boats who were always reasonably close, a similar speed, size, and we had our own little race within the race as well. It was a lot of fun, and that can happen. It's just fate. I don't think anyone is actually sticking with any other entrant for safety reasons, as in a buddy boat. Stephen Penengel, fishing reel. Yes, that was a big red fishing reel right next to Jean-Luc through all those live Facebooks. And has he caught any? I believe he caught a couple of fish coming down the Atlantic. He wouldn't have caught any in the Southern Ocean, probably not even trying. When there's not a lot of pelagics down there, they tend to be up in the warmer waters and so on. But it's there for later on. He's got it there. So. Okay, Yvonne Kulgren, can you debrief or get a debrief call with Abelish, Tommy, Gregor, and Mark Slats to find out about what they were doing in storm conditions? I think it was. Hang on a sec. I've got a couple of questions here on that. Share race. Yeah, following the race. So okay, Tommy's not there, Gregor's not there. They've got an interesting story to tell. When are we going to get a debrief phone call from them? Basically, the way it works is like this. I mean, we organise the event. The entrants are there. We're in close communication. But when there's something like this happens, we don't pursue them heavily at all, because they're coping with a whole series of things. If you look at Gregor, it was an unreal situation where he really would probably have preferred to be sailing towards Australia under jury rig. Circumstance meant that he couldn't do that. And now the reality of losing his boat. He's not in the GGR anymore. He's got sponsors. He had a massive schools program. All those things. He's coming to terms with that, and we don't want to hassle him. Eventually, I'm certain, in fact, Gregor hasn't contacted us yet since he got off the ship. I'm sure he will. When he does, that's great, but we don't want to ram it down their throat. They're personal times, and with Tommy, for instance, he's back in the Navy. Back in the Air Force. Navy, sorry. He's a pilot, but he was on board the Navy ship. He's now under their control. He does what they say, and we've had a couple of private messages from him that we can't talk about, just friendly messages. We're good mates and things like that. But when things become official, I'm sure you'll see the whole wrap up, and certainly in the future, in months ahead, there'll be some fascinating stories, behind the scenes stories, things like that will come out. But right now, we're giving them all space. In the case of Mark Slats, he's managed now to get out recordings for using his HF radio to a ham operator in Australia, and his team are transcribing that into text, so that you can put it up as a Facebook post, and they're fantastic. So we're just starting to repost them on the GGR site. You'll get a good insight into what Mark is up to, and he's the first one that's tapped into that idea and doing a great job. So you'll get his phone calls, which are pretty cool, but occasionally you'll actually get his recorded radio messages that are then transcribed. So keep an eye on that, and you'll see he talks about, you know, a lot of things. It's quite a good read. Okay, comment from Jarrett Lowe. Oh, Gregor's boat seems to be headed towards Hobart. Well, as you know, he couldn't scuttle the boat. The tracker is working on Gregor's boat. It's likely to operate indefinitely, and as long as the boat stays afloat, the natural weather pattern going across to the west will actually bring the boat towards Australia. Let's wait and see what happens. You know, anything's possible. So, you know, that'll be an interesting one to watch. Margaret Keys had just mentioned that I was surprised I gave a tracker update a couple of days ago, and I said, wow, the fleet is now separated 4,500 miles across the Southern Ocean, and I really didn't expect that. And in fact, you know, the reason we chose the boats we did was to keep them all together. And she says, any conclusions or comments on that? Well, the conclusion is everyone's doing their own thing. That's the first thing. The original Golden Globe race was a race. If you weren't racing other people, you were trying to be either the first or you were trying to be the fastest, and that was a pure objective of that. And I've got to say, some of you know, everyone's entitled to treat this edition of the race the way they see it. Some just want to finish it. They don't care about anyone else or what they're doing. That's all fine. It's part of what goes on. And certainly there's another group that are out there to get around as quick as they can and try and win this race. It's a real race. There's others in the middle. It's an adventure, and they want to go as fast as they can. So that's a reality. But I am very surprised that we're now separated 4,500 miles. It's quite crazy. There are safety concerns. You know, the longer you're out there, the more exposed you are to these things. Igor's having a bit of bad luck there. That happens. I mean, he's going to be plodding along to the finish. We might not see him in Tasmania here till well into December. It depends how fast he can get it cranked up, but at the current rate, we're suggesting he might not be here till mid-December. And by that stage, Jean-Luc could be getting very close to the finish line. You know, we just have to wait and see. So that's life, you know, and it's part of what the adventure is. Okay, Paul Clark. Have boats got the same method of charging batteries? No, but yes. In one instance, we've put in the race rules, they have to have solar panels, because I honestly believe that solar panels were a good emergency form of power generation for the boat. They're usually incredibly stable, hard to damage, you know. So everyone has to have at least 160 watts of solar panels. I've been stunned to see Jean-Luc's solar panels aren't working anymore. Igor's solar panels aren't working anymore. Jean-Luc, Tapio, Susie's solar panels aren't working anymore. I'm just gobsmacked. Solar panels are indestructible. So there's either something in their wiring system or coming out, or I don't know. I've got no idea. I've got no answer for that. Usually you can hot wire them if there's a problem. Sometimes regulators and things like that are a problem. Why have they lost their solar panels? No idea. Jean-Luc is down to his engine and his Watt&C water generator. Susie only has her Watt&C water generator. Tapio only has, he's got no engine even, no solar panels, and he's only now got another brand of water generator. I'm not sure what it is. If he loses that, he's got no power, but he'll carry on dead ship. You know, or that means just no power. So some are using wind generators. You know, obviously Tommy lost his wind generator, completely gone. Others have broken some blades. So it's all down to the skipper's own interpretation. Jean-Luc was happy to use a lot of diesel to come in here. He motored probably 7-8 hours. And I was talking to Susie on the phone yesterday, and she says she's got heaps of diesel left to go. So she could use that for power or coming in here to Hobart. Tapio's got no motor. That's going to be a challenge for him coming in here if there's no wind. Right now it's raining and blowing all the way up here, so you'd sail, you'd blast in, hang out at Kingston Beach and blast out again. So just the luck of the draw with the weather. So it's all different. They're all different for sure. Next one. Angela Clark, would you go to Chichester class if you took water on in Hobart? Yes, you would. If anyone needs water, I know a few of them are getting low on water. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But yeah, if they get any form of assistance at all in Hobart, they're into Chichester class. And Timothy Lorenzo, cover over port lights. Why? This is windows. He picked up that Jean-Luc mentioned about everyone's different aspects to windows, no windows, and so on. You know, why are they covering up their port lights? And would I do the same? And the situation is there is a rule in the notice of race. If your window is above a certain size, you must have a storm board. Now, a storm board can be really thick polycarbonate, which you put over them, and it's all designed, if you're in a big storm and you get a knockdown, the windows might get popped out by the pressure of the boat dropping into the trough. It's usually not the wave that pushes the porthole out. It's when the boat gets picked up and dropped into the trough, when the weight of the boat slamming into that water on that side, it just pushes out the windows. Then the water floods in, and these boats are heavy. They could sink really quick if you fill them up with water. So you've got to hang on to your hatches, your portholes, your companionway, things like that. So the storm boards are either one of two concepts. One is to put them on in a storm so that they won't pop out. The other is to hold them on the boat, and if you pop out a window, you then fit this storm board to fill in the hole. Okay, and would I do the same? If I had a boat with big windows, I would carry storm boards, definitely. The very first boat I built when I was 23 and went cruising, I had permanently fitted polycarbonate storm boards over the windows to make them stronger. So it's very important, because a boat will sink as quick as. So would I take the windows out like Mark Slats has done? Definitely not. I know from my experience, when you're in the boat, you need to be able to look out windows, and you need to be able to look up through hatches to look at the rig. I was forever looking at the rig, and it's very important. It saves you having to get out into the cockpit to have a look around. So I would always maintain visibility. I would just have very strong ports and so on. Remembering that RA lost a porthole as well. He popped one when it went down the other side. So keeping the boat secure is very important to stop you sinking. Okay. Matt Waters, am I concerned about the number of boats left in the race? We're halfway through the race. We started off with 18. We're now down to 9 boats still sailing. And we're only halfway through. Am I concerned about that? What's my thoughts? Well, I'm not concerned about it. The main reason being, of course, is that in a couple of reasons. The first race, there were 9 entrants and only 1 finished. Okay, we started off with 18 technically, and we're down to 9. That's not a huge surprise. I would have preferred if there was more, but if you look at each of the retirements, there's a very legitimate reason for that, and I'm comfortable with the fact that all of the boats that are retired in the Atlantic retired for obvious reasons, either equipment or skippers or dismasting with RA. Then you come through to Tommy and Gregor. I'm confident of a very simple principle. Though Ari, Tommy and Gregor's boat were prepared in the best possible way, okay, the sailors were fantastic sailors. The equipment and the processes and their experience were unquestioned, right? They were really good. Sometimes in the ocean things happen, and that's a reality. It's part of the attraction for taking on these adventures. There is always risk, and it's what this event is. I mean, no one wanted the rescue. The rescue of Tommy, which is the first and only rescue of the race so far, was brought on by an injury, and once a sailor's injured, you're buggered. You can't do anything. That was a really sad event, and those sorts of things can happen. So, am I concerned? No, I'm not concerned. Am I happy about losing all those boats? I would have much preferred they be there. It adds to the colour of the race and a lot of fun. What do I think of the GGR right now? Holy dooly, we got 9 sailors out there. How many boats were in the Volvo? And they still had a great race in the Volvo with 5 boats, I mean, if we get 2 or 3 finishes, so be it. I got no idea how many. Let's hope that we keep all the 9 that we've still got right through to the end of the race, and it'll be fantastic. So, but it's still a grand adventure, and you're right. We're only halfway through. So watch this space. That's what the GGR is, and I've said right from the beginning, the world's never seen anything like this at all. It's only happened from 50 years ago, and the difference then was as well that they didn't even have as good as self-steering gears and wind vanes as we've got today, and it still caused havoc. So yeah, maybe I get a lot of calls from people that aren't even sailors. When I say calls, emails and comments, they're not sailors, but they're fascinated by this race because of the stories, the different things that are happening. It's more than just a sailboat race. Even it's an incredible adventure. So and that's the reality. That's what the GGR is. So yeah, not worried. Just want everyone to be safe and sail safe, and I'm confident they can. I'm confident they will, but things will still happen. Okay. Deborah Doyle, what info on storm tactics of Gregor and Tommy and Mark? Oh, that's would double up the question. Nothing yet other than what Mark has said in his excellent coverage on his Facebook page and his website and so on. Gregor and Tommy will be doing, obviously at the end of the GGR, sure, there'll be the documentaries and there'll be the books. There'll be a book, 2 books, a portrait book and a story book that I'm writing. But there will also be other little things that we'll do in debriefs. We will debrief all the skippers and we will get all this information together and we will make it all freely available. There's a fascinating story to be told and there's a lot of experience to be gleaned from all these incidents, and we understand the value of that for the average sailor. We're not expecting the average sailor to head into the Southern Ocean, but nonetheless you can get some nasty stuff anywhere in the world, and it's nice to know what happens. So at the moment we don't have it, but it will come out, so that's cool. John Moran looking for products for sale. All right. We are still, I've got to say sorry about this, we are swamped by, well, not swamped, but there's a lot of people who'd like to get a GGR hat, they'd like to get this GGR shirt, they'd like to get the one with Sailing Night 1968. And quite honestly, we're just so busy at the moment. As you know, small team, we've got product in France, we've got product in China. The biggest hassle is trying to get an efficient delivery system out to the place that's a reasonable price. Because at the moment the price we've got, crikey, you buy a hat and you pay $50 delivery after you bought the hat, So, but it is really an issue of we're all just really busy at the moment, and the shop's done, it's online, but we don't want to activate it because we haven't got a delivery system sorted out yet, and we're all short of time and people and stuff like that, but we're onto it. And if there's one thing we want to do, we want to get it up before Christmas, and Christmas is not far away. So for all the supporters that want to do it, get all the merchandise or the merchandise we have to help us and support us, we appreciate that. Thanks. Hang on, we will get there eventually. So the other thing I'd say is we are getting a huge amount of complimentary emails about how everything's happened over the last month or so with coverage of the race, and I mentioned once before we had people want to send us money and things like that. All I'd say is just remember our Citran Bear. Citran is all about motor neurone disease, Parkinson's disease, and Alzheimer's. Citran is a world centre of excellence into that research in Sheffield in England, and I've been supporting this charity for a long time now. It's really cool. Each of the entrants have got a Citran Bear on board, and the entrants have named them. I mucked up a bit because Jean-Luc actually has a Citran Bear on board, but he always travels with another bear. And it was a she bear, and the Citran Bear is a boy bear. And he said before he left that, it's going to be interesting. Boy bear, girl bear, 9 months of the race, things might happen. But I meant to ask him how it was all going, and I forgot. So anyway, these bears will be used as fundraisers later on. You'll be able to make an offer on the bear that Jean-Luc's got, the offer that, and we found out yesterday that, to our great delight, that Tommy actually made sure his teddy bear, his Citran Bear, was rescued before he was. The bear went out the companionway before he did. And I'm hoping Gregor's got his and all the others, so that's a story for later on. But if you felt you wanted to support us for enjoying the ride that you've had so far, get on to, we have a charity site there. Go to the charity site. We've got a Just Giving page, and if you want to slip a couple of dollars or a couple of pesos or a couple of pounds or euros or whatever, just a Citran, we'd be really happy about that. So that's really about it. Christophe is going to do a French live tracker update tomorrow. Then he'll do French questions and answers as well in the next day or two, and we'll keep this happening, and there'll be a tracker update from me later on tonight. Thanks very much.